in Laos in 71 and 72 was a terrible time for the Hmong soldiers. There was a big offensive, offensive by the Pathet Lao and the NVA. And there was one case officer, one fine young man. This gentleman, Jerry Daniels, was a case officer who recruited me in the airplane this one morning. And I could see he was real upset. He said, there's a strip just on the southeast edge of the Plain of Jars. There's a strip that we've never been into. We haven't landed at this strip in 5 years since I've been here. There's enemy on the strip now. I have 3 Thai officers on this strip. 2 are wounded. They're hiding in the grass. We've got radio contact with them, and they're going to be found. There's any minute now. We've got to get them out of there. Well, we had all these strips numbered because the names of the strips were too hard to pronounce. And we had a book that listed which strips were open which days because these strips changed hands almost on a weekly basis. They could be overrun. We get them back. They're overrun again. So in any case, this strip that Jerry wanted me to go to was a strip I'd never landed at. I didn't know anybody had ever landed at it. And he said no one had landed there in 5 years. It was about 25 miles northeast of Long Chen, 20 alternate, right on the southeast corner of the PDJ in a series of ridge lines. In fact, it was on a ridge line. We jumped in the airplane, we flew on up there, and this strip was east-west oriented. The strip was at about 3,000 to 4,000 feet elevation. Just to the north of the strip, maybe a quarter mile, was a high 5,000 foot high limestone karst outcropping that we knew had 250 calibers on it to protect the strip. When Jerry said there were some people on the strip, I thought he meant, when they said, I didn't even think he meant on the runway. I thought, and I'm not sure, there's some were NVA because we had a club over there. If they chased you on your airplane when you were on the runway, which they did, sometimes they wanted to capture you, they wanted to shoot you. And if they got so close that you could see the stripe on their sock, they had striped socks, you could belong to the stripe club. That meant you were really close. I said, okay, we'll go take a look. So Jerry had the handheld radio, and he's talking to these guys. And he said, if I don't get these guys out, I'm going to lose the whole company because they'll know that I didn't go in there to pull these fellas out. They're officers, they're lieutenants and captains. So this strip, on this ridge, it was a rocky ridge where they filled in dirt years and years ago, back I'm talking Dien Bien Phu days, flattened it out. Since that time, grass and weeds and everything had grown over it, so no one would have ever recognized this as a strip. But based on the coordinates, I knew where it was, we were able to find it. So I came into the strip. The ridge is running east and west. The strip is uphill to the west. It's an east-west ridge that's been years and years ago made into a little 500-foot long uphill runway. To the north of the strip, about a quarter, half a mile, is these 250 calibers overlooking it. I let down into the valley till I'm like 25 feet over the trees in this valley, and I'm probably 1,000 feet in elevation below the runway. Proceeded to the east, turned around, and came to land on the strip, but from an altitude substantially beneath the strip so that no one on the strip could see me. Came roaring up over the doggone edge of this strip, and the first thing I saw when I looked on the strip, I saw a 55-gallon rusted oil drum. I saw a stump laying on its side. I saw 2 NVA guys, uniformed guys. I'm not talking about shower shoes and shorts there. And they, of course, they looked up, and here comes this roaring airplane, this giant aluminum bird just descending on them out of nowhere. So they just kind of leaped off the runway. We hit that thing, and I'm praying that I don't hit a stump or a rocket and wipe out the gear. Hit the ground all the way at the end. But when these strips are uphill, it's so hard to get the tail of the airplane around. You can't stop. You have to keep really going, and at the end of the strip, it takes full rudder, brake, and aileron to try to dig in the left wheel so you can get the tail back up around so you can take back off downhill. We'd already made arrangements. Jerry had talked to the guys. He said, the pilot says he's going to stop. I'm going to count, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. We'd actually go 4 seconds, not 3, not 5, but 4 seconds. Spun it around. I heard the door go slamming open. It was a sliding door on the side of the porter. And I was counting to myself. I can't remember if I was counting myself, counting out loud, but the numbers were. Just then, 3, 4, 5, 6 NVA came up, almost as close as you are to me. Wide-eyed. I mean, paralyzed because here's this airplane landed right in the middle of their airport. Just then, and it was only when I told the story for about the 30th time, about 5 years ago, that to a helicopter, pilot that he explained to me why I'm actually here today. The 250 calibers opened up on the airplane, and they had tracers too. About every fifth round was a tracer. They opened up, and the whole area in front of the airplane just turned pink. Tracers roaring by. The guy realized on this car strip there that he was missing. He yanked the guns to the right, and I saw all the tracers go over the top of the airplane. I knew what was happening in a minute. They were going to be coming back this way. He yanked them back. All the tracers came out the front of the airplane, and I felt wham! I felt the airplane shake. Somebody jumped in. The tracers came back this way. Wham! Wham! And Jerry's holler and go, slammed the power to it, and went roaring down, bouncing, lunging down the runway, and peeled off down into the valley. We got all three of those guys out. And like I said, I didn't realize till when I told this story about 5 years ago to a helicopter pilot, a good friend of mine named Emmett Sullivan. He said, you know, if that 50 caliber hadn't have opened up and tried to get you, they'd all shot you. And I didn't really realize that they all had to dive off the side of the runway that had gotten shot by the 50 caliber. So they saved my life. I have the name of the person, the head of the agency in Laos who called me up to his office 2 minutes after I landed. They already knew what had happened. So this is a documentable story by the head guy.
0640 will be operating in the 20 alternate area. I'll be giving you a call every 30 minutes.
Lima, roger.